Welcome back to Morgan's video blog with writing tips from the pros and, of course, my own writerly musings. Today I'm here with bad kidneys and other NFTs, avoiding the dark side of Twitter, a DisConIII panel. In December of 2021, I had the opportunity to attend DisConIII, and I have a lot of other notes on this. The panelists for the titular panel were Marianne Kirby as moderator, L.D. Lewis, Malka Older, Arlie Sorg, Christine Sandquist, and okay, this is a little weird, but I actually took a handful of notes while I was on this panel. So here are my first self-referential notes. The panel description was as follows. The perils of being on the internet have a tendency to create an infinite number of awful rabbit holes to fall into. Our panelists will discuss ways to avoid being Twitter's main character, tools to steer clear from bad takes, and general ideas on good literary citizenship, all in the face of problematic faves and infinite bad actors, in addition to the rest of the world's ills. So let's start off with the easy one. What makes a good literary citizen on the internet? Number one, be inclusive, be supportive, do your research. Don't just retweet something. Fourth, if you are not, uplift marginalized voices. Don't talk over them. Identify your privileges and use them for good. Listen more, opine less. I think the world could use a lot more of that. I opine loudly. Build up voices and strengthen communities. Some think they're helping when they're tearing others down. So let's talk about the title of this panel. What are bad kidneys and NFTs? Well, both are examples of viral literary Twitter stories. Bad Kidneys is a reference to the Bad Art Friend, in which an MFA graduate donated a kidney as part of a donation chain, and found out later that a distant friend had published a story, The Kindest, based on it, even quoting her own Facebook message about it. The event ended in a lawsuit, and the short story was legally restricted from being republished. Countersuits ensued, etc. Another author was inspired to talk about quote unquote Cat Person, the name of a short story, written by a friendly acquaintance that took snippets and private details from her real life and strewn it throughout, from like Facebook stalking. The essayist talked about the real feelings of violation that occurred. So NFTs, on the other hand, refer to non-fungible tokens, where you can quote unquote buy the digital claim to the quote unquote original of a digital piece of art, music, writing, what have you. You don't actually own the work. You don't actually get money for sales of the copies. You just get the claim of having the quote unquote original. There's a lot of debate about it, but for most of us, it's on par with the craze a couple years ago, decades ago, to quote unquote buy a star and give it a loved one's name. And then the companies with these star name registries went under, and that right is now worthless and unenforceable. So, in reference, what does this have to do with literary Twitter? There was a group of, I believe, agents who tried to set up a community to register your works and sell your NFTs to your works. There was backlash because of the whole concept of NFTs, and the agents publicly apologized and retracted the whole project. The difference between these two events is how the people responded. In the first, neither would admit to being wrong. In the second, the group took responsibility and apologized without making excuses. While the bad kidney story is still being told, the NFTs story blew over in under a week. So, what does this tell us about arguing on Twitter? The best way to go about it is to A, dispute subject matter, not people, not their integrity, etc. Secondly, remember that other people are responding to their own context and their own trauma. And finally, people often fall into performative beliefs. Yes, they have these beliefs, and so if they have these beliefs, they must act in a certain way or espouse back certain other people, and that's not necessarily true. So that's talking about obviously the rabbit holes you can go down in Twitter. Let's talk a little bit about the ways that literary Twitter is good. First off, I mean, it's a way to connect with other writers, agents, editors, publishers, and more. You want to approach them as people. You don't want to stalk them. You don't want to like and comment on everything they write. You just want to find out more about their lives and interact with them as if you were trying to make a friend, because that's what you're doing. There's a right way and a wrong way to network. If you don't know the difference, look it up. And another way Twitter, literary Twitter can be useful is, there are Twitter pitch parties where you can get some buzz for your writing. Some of them are Pit Mad, SFF Pit, Div Pit for diversity, etc. So it can be really easy to feel overwhelmed with Twitter. So here are a few best practices. First, favorite your favorite tweeters or add them to a list to follow so your feed is cultivated. Secondly, set an update schedule and schedule the posts if you want. And third, if you're getting overwhelmed, just check your notifications and ignore your feed. As with all social media platforms, the level of Twitter drama on your feed is heavily influenced by who you follow and who you interact with. If you need to, take a step back. It was a good panel, and I hope my notes are at least a little helpful. Let me know in the comments below if there's anything I missed, and as always, tune in again next week for more writing tips and writerly musings. Bye-bye.